All right, welcome back for another beer experience. I'm Kevin with CrafTeeBeer, and by beer tasting experience, I mean I saw a beer that I wanted to try. I'm going to taste it, and I'm going to share the experience with you. And now you're asking, what do we have for today's beer tasting experience? We've got an Imperial Coffee Stout. Today's stout is from Mason Ale Works, and they're in Oceanside, California. They were started in 2015 by Grant Tondreau and Zach Higson. They started a second brewing and restaurant location in 2017 in San Marcos, which I guess is a far larger brewing facility as well as a larger gastro pub. And the location in San Marcos, I understand, has an 8-lane bowling alley regulation lanes, and that was, from what I understand, because they're big fans of the movie The Big Lebowski, so they wanted their own bowling lanes.
Smokey, this is not Nam, this is bowling. There are rules. Hey.
Today's stout is the Cash Stout. It's a 9.4% ABV, and this stout says on the side of the can, when asked for his definition of paradise, Mr. Cash said, "This morning with her, having coffee." So that's, I guess, where the name originates, because that's a quote from Johnny Cash in a interview or a question session that Vanity Fair did back in 1997.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
So I'm assuming that that's the origins of the name of this beer. And it was done in a collaboration with Mostra Coffee using Costa Rican Aguas Claras beans. And like usual, I'm sure I got that wrong.
You got one part of that wrong.
To accentuate the rich, chocolatey notes of this fine stout, best consumed at 40 to 50 degrees. I've left this out for a little bit. Not sure we're in the 40 to 50 range, but we're probably close. So Mostra Coffee is a micro roaster. I think they're in San Diego, California. So definitely trying to amp up the coffee flavor that you would get from a stout. A stout style is a roasted, usually coffee, bitter, dark chocolate flavors, usually pretty light on the hoppy, fruity types of flavors. So usually just that dark feeling bitter beer. It depends on, it could be medium to heavy bodied. It depends. Fairly low carbonation, but usually a medium body. Well, all right, let's get the Cash Stout into the glass and see what today's beer tasting experience has in store for us. So it poured the poster child of a stout, completely dark, 2.5 fingers of a light brown tan chocolate milk colored head, lots of bubbles, looks foamy and creamy on the top, completely opaque, can't see anything through it, so dark as you'd expected. Maybe not ink black, but maybe a really dark mahogany color. So definitely, as we say, another good looking beer.
Very good looking. Really good looking?
So let's see what this smells like. I'm going to guess that we're going to get lots of coffee notes from this, but I guess we'll find out. Definitely roasted coffee. Yep, maybe a little nutty. So yeah, a coffee nutty nose is what I'm getting. And yeah, a little hint of chocolate, maybe a small amount of vanilla. So really, well, totally defines or what expected with a stout. It's definitely the nose from a good stout. So let's give this one a try. So here's to the dude. Cheers.
I'm the dude, so that's what you call me.
It's a little bit sweeter than I thought. Was planning to go in. I was planning to go in for the bitter, Didn't get it up front. Got a little bit of like subtle sweetness coffee up front, but then before I even finished saying that, in the very back of my throat, the bitter, the dark roasted coffee bitterness just like exploded on the back end. I think I read this was made with German Magnum hops, and from what I read, those hops are really known to be used for bittering. They have very little, very mild or subtle citrus flavors or any other kind of hop flavor. They're really good for bittering, and if that's what they use, that explains how this thing had a really explosive, bitter back end after I, was being fooled to believe it wasn't going to be that bitter. But that could explain it. And it's almost a spicy burn bitter after I've had a few sips of this. Yeah, the coffee's not, being made with the coffee beans and having, read that it's made with a certain kind of coffee beans. I thought the coffee flavor would be more pronounced or be the so prominent thing that it would just be like drinking, iced coffee per se, or a cold cup of black coffee. But it's a little more complex than that. It's got a little bit of some kind of subtle sweetness up front. The bittering is there, and it's the coffee flavor is there, but the bitter back end, it grabs your attention and almost draws it away from the coffee flavor. But definitely roasted malts, coffee bean bitter, and I'm not really getting any chocolate in the flavor though. Not a simple beer, not an extremely complex beer. Middle of the road as far as what the different flavors are and how the flavor profile changes from front to back. It's not a heavy beer at all. It's medium bodied at best. Leaves a little behind, not completely, clean. It's leaving a whole coating of this bitter film, I guess. And it's definitely, the bitterness is really, it's a throat bitter, not really. Sometimes you get a back of the tongue bitter. This is like a throat bitter. It's, it's staying right back there, a roasty bitterness. Just enough though. It's enjoyable. If you like a roasted stout, it's what you'll expect and what you'll like. It's what you hope it delivers.
Well, that sounds good.
And this is definitely delivering this. So yeah, this is a really good Imperial Coffee Stout. So I'm going to go check this in on Untapped. Well, okay, another one checked in. I really like this one. I was really in the mood for a stout tonight for some reason, and this really just this did it. It had all the expected characteristics of a stout, but it had just a little bit something a little unique. That back end really caught me by surprise. And as I was working on checking this in and sipping on this stout a little bit more, I began to realize that back end bitter explosion wasn't just bitter, it was a little bit of booze too. I think it has a little hint of the boozy aspect on the back end as well, making a little more complex. So again, I went with a 4 rating on Untapped for this, and I gave it the flavor profile of coffee, roasty, bitter, and boozy. That does a fairly well job of describing my experience with this. So there you go, checked it in, a 4 rating from me. And there's another beer tasting experience in the books. I appreciate you tagging along and letting me geek out on a stout tonight. If you want to find me on Untapped, it's CrafTeeBeer. If you want to find other social media nonsense, it's in the description below. Hit subscribe. Leave me a comment if you've had something from Mason Ale Works. And until the next beer experience, I'm Kevin with CrafTeeBeer. Cheers.